Hello, everyone, and welcome to Total Football Talk. I'm Anthony,
I'm Eric.
and his butt is still hurting. Um, I don't know what the hell happened with the Thursday night game. We'll get to that later. But, well, I guess we'll start with that. Eric, I'll let you. Do you want me to start? Because there's a couple of things that I'm listening to that I laugh at the hypocrisy and I just shake my head.
I'll start.
Okay.
If anybody had access to my Facebook page, they would see how many Bears quote-unquote fans were ready to jump off and call it a season. It was actually really pathetic. People call themselves diehard fans. I'm going to call them blowhard fans because, I'm sorry, diehard fans don't act like they're bailing, jumping ship after one game. We all forget to remember that the Bears also started out 0-1 after a loss to Green Bay last year. Okay, what happened? We all know what happened with the Bears. They went on to 12-4. They went to the playoffs, and they were one missed field goal away from winning the Super Bowl.
What?
Anyway,
Shut up.
Anyways,
Shut your mouth.
3 more points than you would have scored.
Oh,
Shut
what?
your mouth.
Shut your face.
Anyways, so, listen. Rodgers was pedestrian. He had one drive. Okay? That's it. One drive. Both defenses showed up, and the only time the Bears actually moved the ball was when they kicked a field goal. And then for some odd reason, Matt Nagy decides to go for it on 4th and 10 in Green Bay territory and doesn't kick a field goal again. Now, I know, if the Bears kick 3 field goals, they lose 10-9. I get it, okay? But you also have a new kicker. Kick the darn field goal. The play calling all game was atrocious. What are you doing? Going hurry-up offense with 3 minutes to go, and you're basically at like the 25-yard line of Green Bay with at like the 2-minute warning. Don't give Rodgers that time. Run the ball. You threw all passes. Run the ball. You brought in Mike Davis for a reason. You drafted David Montgomery for a reason, who, with the limited touches that he had, everyone, looked fantastic. Allen Robinson looked fantastic. Everybody else outside the defense was mediocre at best. And I think the Bears really miss Trey Burton more than they really let on. That they think for some reason he's a big part of their offense, which is fine, but he needs to be on the field for that offense to possibly move the ball even more. So, with that being said, I like the way the Bears defense swarmed the ball. 5 sacks in the game. There was another opportunity for Kyle Florida to pick off a pass, and he just missed it. So that's twice in 2 years against Rodgers. And Trubisky had a bad throw in the end zone where former teammate Adrian Amos picked it off. But even after that happened, like, the whole thing was Green Bay ran the ball on first down. Rodgers thought he was, like, outsmarting himself, and he tried to throw a pass on second down and threw it in the ground, short of the receiver. So it's like you just stop the clock, and the Bears didn't have to use a timeout, and then you run the ball again on third down. Like, are coaches so strung out that they're trying to outthink themselves? I mean, give me a break here.
No, Eric.
I'm not finished. It's the Sean Payton effect. Oh, we're going to throw the ball because we got to win, and I got a great quarterback, and our guys can catch it. No. You run the football. That's what it's there for. You control the clock. How many more times do I have to say this before it starts sinking in? Seriously.
Dude.
No, Trubisky looked mediocre. Everybody's like, oh, Trubisky's not a quarterback. He's not the quarterback of the Bears. Listen, I thought the Bears should have selected Deshaun Watson. It's no joke, okay? The Bears should have taken Deshaun Watson at 3, never even traded up for 2, because Trubisky probably would have fell to part halfway down the first round or even into the second round. But that wasn't my call. I mean, you just wasted draft picks with that. Fine. Now, you and I both called Bears beating Green Bay in leading up to the game anyways, and we didn't really have a preview show, which is fine. But now that they've lost to Green Bay, instead of beating them like we called it, this takes the game going to Denver to a whole new level. It's a must-win game if there was any of the early season must-win for that.
Yeah.
But in that regards, controlling the clock, running the ball, and actually hitting your open receivers. There's a lot of receivers that were open that Trubisky either didn't see or just didn't feel like throwing the ball. I'll never know. But, the Bears lose a tough one, 10-3, which they should have ended up winning probably like 17-10 or 17-7 or something. Yeah, it was uncalled for, and it was truly a letdown of opening weekend. Like, that 10-3 game might as well have been played 100 years ago.
Well, I mean, look, I don't mind the score. I don't mind the way it went down. To answer your question about the officiating, let me make this very clear. Or not the officiating, but the coaching. The NFL coaches today wouldn't be able to be hornblowers for any NFL organization in the 70s, in the 80s, I dare even say in the 90s. These guys today that are head coaches, by and large, are some of the most pathetic, terrible. I mean, it's no wonder Bill Belichick keeps making it to Super Bowls. This is the pool that he coaches against. If you don't know basic, fundamental football, you shouldn't be watching, let alone coaching. But
31 out of 32 coaches don't do what they should at certain junctures of the game.
The Rams are the Rams are a perfect example. Go back and watch.
Okay, but what did the Patriots do in the AFC Championship game? Ran the ball when they got close, and Kansas City couldn't stop them. What did the Patriots do in the Super Bowl against Atlanta in overtime? Ran the ball.
They knew they were tired. What did Atlanta not do that would have won them the Super Bowl that year? Run the ball. The Rams come out. Todd Gurley's third carry of the game was an 11-yard run, and then he doesn't touch the ball pretty much again. Right? They run in C.J. Anderson. Okay? I mean, C.J. Anderson's a one-dimensional running back. He's in the game, he's going to either block or run. He's not a threat to pass, which means you can put extra guys in coverage. Like, even Sean McVay, for me this year, Sean McVay has a lot to prove. When you go back and look at the games, and I watched every game last year, this summer, when you go back and watch those games, the Rams run 2 formations, they run 6 plays. If they do that again this year, they won't make the playoffs. That's not hard for teams to figure out. And that's all Bill Belichick had a game plan for. So, everyone calls McVay a genius. And I like McVay. Don't get me wrong. I love Sean McVay. But I'm going to like him a lot less this year if he comes out with 2 formations and 6 plays again.
And don't get me wrong. I'm not a Nagy basher. It's not that I don't like Nagy. I do. I love what he did with the Bears last year. But when you're preparing for a week plus for Green Bay, and you come out and run the play calls and then defend it in your post-game press conference that you did, it better not be a long year, especially without a first-round pick.
Well, and let me just touch on something else. This is why I don't enjoy the approach that Sean McVay introduced for preseason football. The idea of not playing your starters. This is the product that you're going to get. It just is.
Well, and that's funny that you mentioned that, because I wanted to bring up that point too. Matt Nagy just proved why you need to play in preseason.
Absolutely. And everyone, here's what I can't stand. People are like, you really want to lose a guy in the preseason? What's the difference if you lose the guy in week 1 of the regular season? What? He came out, got his name announced, got 3 carries, blew his knee out, now he's done for the year. It's no different. At least with the preseason, you have time to find somebody else. So yeah, to answer that question, I absolutely would rather lose a starter in the preseason with 3 weeks to get ready for the regular season. Thank God that Trent Green got injured in week 2 of the preseason instead of getting injured in week 1 of the regular season. Absolutely. The greatest show on turf never happens if that injury doesn't occur. Injuries happen in preseason because you don't go full speed. That's it. Guys, I'm sorry. That is all. There's no magic pill. There's no magic potion. You want to know how you keep guys upright in the preseason? You tell them when you're in, you play 110%. Because the other guy isn't, and they'll get injured. But you won't. It's as simple as that. If I'm a head coach in the NFL, my starters play 1 series in the first game. They play 2 series in the second game. They play a half in the third game. And they play 3. And I play my starters for 3 quarters in the 4th preseason game. That's it. That's what you do. Go ahead, Eric.
And Trubisky did. He played the first series. He handed the ball off 3 times. You can practice all you want, okay? You can never simulate game speed in practice.
No.
Get out in the preseason. Let your guys hit somebody. I'd rather have them hit somebody in preseason than hit somebody and injure somebody else in a joint practice or get injured in a joint practice. But get those guys in 1 series, like you said, in the first game, and then maybe 2 or 3 series in the second game, and maybe even a whole quarter or a half in the third game, and then sit everybody in the 4th game. This way, you've already got timing down. And Trubisky's timing was rarely on point in the game against Green Bay. And I'm not saying Rodgers is any better. Rodgers didn't have – the only difference between Trubisky and Rodgers in the game was an interception to a touchdown. That's it. That was it.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, that's the last thing that I want to touch on this game for me. I didn't watch it. I don't have TV until November, probably. I'll be watching the games this week at my brother's house. I'll be watching the games next week at a friend's house and then another friend's house. I'm going to be spread out over the first half of the season. But for me, like, it just kills me. You know, you look at the stat line and they're very similar. And I hear people go, Aaron Rodgers, the Packers are going to the playoffs. He's the greatest quarterback ever. And I'm like, guys won 1 Super Bowl. He's the only quarterback in NFL history to lose in the first round of the playoffs with a 15-1 record. You want to tell me this guy is great? This guy is a choke artist. He had 1 run. That's it in his entire career. He's a cancer in the locker room. He's LeBron James in a football uniform. And you want to tell me he's the greatest. He's every bit as good as Tom Brady. You know, I heard this garbage last year when the Rams were getting ready to play Green Bay. Oh, the Packers are going to beat the Rams. Aaron Rodgers, Aaron Rodgers, Aaron Rodgers, Aaron Rodgers. I'm done with Aaron Rodgers. You know, you want me to believe the same 6 guys are the best quarterbacks in football and no one's approaching them. And then you want to rag on Trubisky and run the guy out of town for a bad performance. And you want to tell me how great Aaron Rodgers is. And the only reason because I guarantee you, if the score was reversed, they would still be ragging on Trubisky and saying how great Aaron Rodgers is and look at what he did with such little around him. Green Bay's not making the playoffs this year. They're not. I'll be generous and give them 7 wins after this game. Okay? I thought they were going to be a 5-6 win team. Well, they won this one, so you can make them a 6 or a 7 win team. But man bun Davante Adams is not a good wide receiver. Certainly not somebody that you trade for. Okay, Ramley, let me ask you a question. Would you trade Cooper Kupp for Davante Adams? Would you trade Robert Woods for Davante Adams? I know I wouldn't. Eric, would you trade Allen Robinson for Davante Adams?
That's a tough one. I mean,
that in itself makes my point.
Robinson had the ACL injury, and this depending on this year, I might.
You might, but it's still up in the air. That's my point. That's their wide receiver. Who's running the ball in Green Bay?
Aaron Jones.
Yeah, I rest my case. Who's blocking for Aaron Rodgers on that O-line?
David Bakhtiari.
Yeah, that's about it, right? Now,
I mean, he was a Pro Bowler.
Right, and I'm giving him credit, but that's all they got. Right? Hold on a minute. Yeah, I'm not saying that he's not a good lineman, but you can't win with just one lineman. And they're weak across the board on that side of the ball. Now, defensively, everyone says, oh, I'm so impressed with Green Bay. Well, wait a minute. If you're impressed with Green Bay's defense, then you have to acknowledge that Trubisky's a pretty good quarterback. Because if he's the backside of a donkey's derriere, like everyone's saying, and they shut down a terrible football team, then why are you talking like this is an impressive defensive performance? No one was impressed when a defense showed up and stopped the 0-15 Lions. So why are you impressed here? So either Trubisky is good and Green Bay's defense played great, or Trubisky is garbage and the Packer defense lucked out in week 1. Which is it? Because it can't be both, right?
Nope.
So, I get irritated with the double speak out of people's mouths. What I was trying to say earlier, Eric, is what I can't stand is the double speak, okay? When it comes to Aaron Rodgers, it's, oh, the Packers won 10-3, and I got to hear from people how great Aaron Rodgers looked and how wonderful Aaron Rodgers is, and Trubisky is garbage. Dude, it was 10-3. I had a buddy of mine. Yeah, I had a buddy.
Aaron Rodgers was under duress for the majority of the game.
Okay, and I'm betting Trubisky was as well?
Yes, he was.
I mean, I'm assuming, I didn't see the game, but, they're making it sound like Trubisky had 75 seconds per pass play and was missing guys by 50 yards. Like, that's the way they're making it sound. While Aaron Rodgers was like mid-crushing blow delivering a ball between 3 defenders in a tight window and threw for 9,000 yards and 51 touchdowns, but somehow it was only 10-3. Like, that's what people are saying, right? And it's like, really? Now, my buddy watched the game. He told me, he's like, dude, it was bad. He's like, it was an ugly game. He's like, Trubisky was missing guys, but he was telling me that Aaron Rodgers just flat out didn't see guys. Like, he got worried in the second quarter, I guess it was. There was a moment where, I don't know if it was their tight end or wide receiver. He told me who it was. But they were wide open. Like, the Bears safety bit on the inside route and left him wide open, and Aaron Rodgers threw to the guy that the safety jumped on, knocking the ball out as the ball got there. Clean hit, everything was fine, no flag, but totally missed the wide open guy. And he did that like 3 or 4 times. Now, I'm sorry, but I never felt like Aaron Rodgers was one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. I never felt like Aaron Rodgers was one of the most athletic QBs that ever played. Aaron Rodgers is a really good quarterback. But I'll be honest with you. I'll be totally honest with you. Aaron Rodgers, I would take Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, Eli Manning, Drew Brees, Deshaun Watson, maybe later. We'll have to wait and see how his career goes. But certainly at the moment, I would take Nick Foles over Aaron Rodgers. They have the same Super Bowl wins, and he's younger, and he's healthier, and he's done just as much. Aaron Rodgers is the only quarterback in NFL history to go 15-1 and lose in the first round of the playoffs, or their first round in the playoffs. It's never happened. There's never been a team with one loss to ever do that since the playoff format was established. Ever. Like, do people not realize the significance of that stat? And he lost to the Giants. The Giants. I know the Giants won the Super Bowl that year, but are you kidding me? Right? So can we please pump the brakes? Yeah, I would take Ben Roethlisberger over Aaron Rodgers. He's been to several Super Bowls. Like, it blows my mind how people put this guy in the same stratosphere as Peyton, Brees, and Brady. And the guy's never delivered. I would be curious what Aaron Rodgers' postseason record is. It's not very good. And I'll give you some more evidence on this, okay? The Cardinals organization has won exactly 5 playoff games in their history. 6. They beat Philadelphia to win a championship, right? They beat Dallas. They beat Green Bay, not once, but twice. They beat Atlanta, and they beat Philly to go to the Super Bowl. In 6 games, the Cardinals have beaten Aaron Rodgers twice. The Cardinals organization. That's a third of their victories in their career. In the entire franchise's history, a third of their victories have come against Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers. Yet you want to tell me Eli Manning sucks. Okay.
Rodgers is 9-7 in the playoffs.
Okay. 9-7. Not hardly the record of a Tom Brady. Hardly a record you would consider somebody to be the greatest of all time in. And how many Super Bowl titles?
1.
And how many Super Bowl appearances?
1.
In how many years that he played?
It says here, what is that? How many years?
While you look that up, let me throw some names out there. Johnny Unitas, multiple championships. Otto Graham, multiple championships.
15 years.
13 years?
15 seasons.
15 seasons. 15 seasons. Johnny Unitas, Otto Graham, Terry Bradshaw, Bart Starr, Brett Favre. I'll throw that name in there. Okay? Phil Simms led technically only one. We'll throw Phil Simms out the window. I don't even consider him great. Let's just start over. Johnny Unitas, Otto Graham, Sid Luckman, Bart Starr, Terry Bradshaw, Bob Greasy, Roger Staubach, Joe Montana, Joe Theismann, right? Troy Aikman, Kurt Warner, Brett Favre, John Elway. There are so many other quarterbacks that are better than Aaron Rodgers all time who've done more with less than this guy's had. So here's what Aaron Rodgers is for all of you out there. He's a good quarterback. That's it. That's it. He's the best quarterback in the North, but that's not saying much. And he's one of the better quarterbacks in the NFC. One of the better. Not the best. He's in that category. And I'll tell you something else. If Jared Goff has a postseason this year and gets the Rams to another Super Bowl, I'm going to say that Jared Goff is better than Aaron Rodgers. With or without a Super Bowl victory, because he'd have been to two of them bad boys. And yes, Aaron Rodgers has had some unbelievable talent around him over the years. Would you agree?
Yes.
So I just, it just irritates me, the doublespeak. Aaron Rodgers is great. Trubisky is garbage, even though it was 10-3 and they both played statistically terrible, right? If the Packers had lost that game 10-3, Trubisky would still be garbage and the Bears defense saved the day and Aaron Rodgers would still be the greatest quarterback that ever breathed oxygen next to Tom Brady, right? That's what I'm going to have to hear all season long. As I said before, I didn't expect Green Bay to win. You touched on this, Eric. The most wins I give them is 7. And that's because they won this game. It could be anywhere between 6 or 7 wins this year. Because that record, that schedule is brutal. Anyway, enough about that. I'll let you take it away. As far as Trubisky goes for me, I need to see this season. Right? Right now, I have Trubisky in the category of a good quarterback. Not great, not a really good quarterback, just a good, solid quarterback that if you got the pieces around him, he can help you win. You're not going to win because of Trubisky, but he can help you win. Now we'll see how it looks at the end of the year. He may evolve to that position, but we'll see. Eric, your thoughts on Aaron Rodgers? I know you're a Bear fan, so it's going to be a little jaded maybe, but I'm not, and mine isn't. And then I want you to touch on Trubisky being a Bear fan. Like what do you make of him this year? What is this year to Trubisky?
All right, well, first let's go with Rodgers. He's 35. It's no coincidence that he's getting up there in age, and I'm sorry, he's on the down slope of his career. I have no doubts about that whatsoever. It doesn't get easier for him as the year goes on. He's got Minnesota next, but he gets them at home, which is whatever. It's fine. I mean, it's not like Minnesota's never won in Green Bay anyways. So he's going to have another tough defense to face. I think it's going to be a challenging year for him. I still think it's going to take a while for him and LaFleur to be on the same page, and they look like they were out of sync. They They weren't ready for the Bears defense this year. But I think the Bears can learn from it and move ahead, look towards Denver. And Rodgers, for Green Bay to have any chance, Rodgers needs to be healthy. And I've talked to many people who don't think Rodgers is going to stay healthy all year. 35, listen, your body breaks down. It's that simple. So we'll see. I'm going to be watching very closely, like Rodgers, his emotions because of a new head coach and whatnot, and see how much reign he really actually has. See how much leeway he actually has. As far as Trubisky goes, I was hoping to see a lot of improvement. It's still one game in. I'm still hoping to see quite a bit of improvement from him. I want to see him be able to connect downfield with guys. Listen, Allen Robinson is your number one. Your number two is Taylor Gabriel. He doesn't have the greatest weapons on earth to throw to, and I think that's what's going to be one of his downfalls, is that he doesn't have more than one really good receiver to throw to. And Gabriel's not the guy. Gabriel's 5'8". He got called for a couple of offensive PIs in the game against Green Bay. And, he's trying to use his arms and his body to gain leverage, and that's what you have to do when you're 5'8". Anthony Miller in the slot. He's got to look for him and get him involved more. He was at 6 touchdown catches last year. And, unfortunately, he had a shoulder injury that he ended up having to be operated on, but you need to get him involved. Riley Ridley was inactive for the game. Get him out there. Run some four receiver sets. Get everybody some playing time. Open up the running game.
First of all, you've got to get Gabriel back in the slot. I'm sorry, but do what Joe Gibbs did with the Redskins.
They can't. They don't have a number 2 wide receiver. And I'll get into that. What I thought could happen in a later segment when we're done going over the games, because we're definitely going to touch on another aspect of the NFL here at the end. But he needs weapons. He needs Burton back out on the field. Burton's a good pass catching tight end. He was during the Super Bowl time in Philly. He was the number 3 option, but he's got talent. He just needs to be on the field. That's all.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's it for the Bear game. Big surprise. Look, I'm not going to put lipstick on a pig. It wasn't a pretty game from what everyone's telling me. I haven't seen it. There are pretty 10-3 games, and there are ugly 10-3 games, and it seems like the consensus is that this wasn't very pretty. When I talk to people about the Super Bowl, and I've told them to go back and look at the Super Bowl, they admit it had its moments where it was a pretty good Super Bowl, but didn't deliver the expectation people had going in. They were expecting a Philly New England score, and instead they got a Pittsburgh Steelers, Minnesota Vikings Super Bowl 9 type score. But all that being said, was still pretty entertaining. This game, a lot of people are like, man, it looked like a preseason game. So, again, not going to put lipstick on a pig, but Green Bay did win, and all that matters is it doesn't matter how you win, it matters that you win. But we'll touch on more of this later. We're going to cover 2 more games coming right up in a sec. All right, well, we're going to be pretty quick from here on out. So this isn't going to be your typical hour-long show like it's been in the past because the format has changed. Eric wants to touch on some NFL stuff at the end, so we'll jump right into it. Rams at Panthers. So, Eric, injury report. I've been hearing rumors that Cam the Scam Newton isn't going to play. Then I hear he's going to play. What is the final verdict on Scam Newton?
He is playing.
He is playing. Okay.
He is playing.
So, my only concern is this. Sometimes when you complain all season long about a quarterback taking unnecessary hits and them not protecting them, the next season they go overboard in protecting them. So I'm concerned that the Rams are going to get some late hits on the quarterback, even though they're not late hits on the quarterback to protect Cam Newton. The Rams really do struggle against the run, but that was last year with Ndamukong Suh. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to remind the jury, if you wouldn't mind, of an individual by the name of Brockers. Brockers is going to be playing in the spot of Ndamukong Suh this year. Tanzel Smart impressed the heck out of me in limited playing time last year. Clay Matthews is definitely up there in age, but an upgrade at the linebacker position because what we had was Abikiwam and Littleton, and that was it.
Now we've got Matthews, Abikuam, and Littleton. So I'm really, really excited about the front seven of the Los Angeles Rams. Fowler's no joke. He's got a long-term contract. He's signed up. Those corners have a lot to prove. And I'm sorry, but there isn't a single receiver on Carolina that scares me against our corners. There just isn't. I like our two corners against their two receivers. The only matchup that scares me is McCaffrey. He's legit, and that's going to be a tough stop. The safeties have got to perform, and I know John Johnson will. We'll see if Weddle's age is going to be an issue or not, because he's going to get tested with some deep balls this year. The Rams are solid in the kicking game. And when I look at this game and I see the advantage on defense, I see the advantage on special teams, and it is an advantage, although their kicker in Carolina is not bad either. It brings me over to offense and what I believe is going to happen. And I don't know why, Eric, I feel this way, but I really, really do. I think the Rams are not going to come out running the ball with Todd Gurley. I think the Rams are going to come out play action passing and hitting Tyler Higbee, their newly re-signed tight end, to a 3-year deal worth $33 million, I believe it was. And I think they're going to stretch the field, and I think they're going to say to Jared Goff, we paid you all this money. We believe in you. Screw the critics. Go beat Cam Newton at his own game and throw the ball downfield. I think the Rams are going to jump on Carolina early. I think it's going to stun the Panthers because they're going to be geared up to stop the run, although I think they're going to be a little unsure on what's going to really happen. And I think in the second half, they're going to regroup. They're going to take that eighth guy out of the box, and that's when Todd Gurley's numbers are going to go through the roof. And I think the Rams are going to pull this game out 27-13.
I'm going to agree with you on the not running Gurley early on. And I do see some play action being thrown, but might as well also get cutback involved too.
Oh, for sure.
What I think, I think the Rams are going to be able to pass all day on the Panthers defense, not run as much. But what I'm looking forward to seeing is McCaffrey versus the Ram defense. And if they can contain McCaffrey and not give up big plays early in the game, then the Rams have a real shot. I actually have this game a little bit closer. I think it's going to be a hard-fought, bone-bruising game, and it's going to be Greg the Leg coming through with a field goal. The only score in the fourth quarter, Rams win 2017 going into Carolina.
Really? See, I just don't see it being that close. All right. Well, why don't you start with the next game, Bengals and Seahawks?
Bengals and Seahawks. I mean, let's call what an apple is. It's an apple, and Cincinnati's going to be one of those rotten apples this year. Sorry, Anthony, but there's no way they're going into Seattle and beating the Seahawks. I don't care what you tell me. I don't care what you tell this audience that's going to listen, and they're going to probably shake their heads at you and agree with me on this one. But Seattle, in case you guys have been living under a rock the last week, Jadeveon Clowney was actually traded to Seattle for a bag of peanuts, inflatable footballs, and a blow-up goalpost. That's what Seattle gave up to get Jadeveon Clowney. Man, they just their pass rush is going to be insane. And with Bobby Wagner being in the linebacking core, just gobbled up tackles.
Whoa. Pass rush? Jadeveon Clowney has never had 10 sack seasons yet in his career.
He doesn't need to have a 10-sack season.
No, he's a run stuffer.
He just needs to put pressure on the quarterback.
Because he's a run stuffer.
And okay, fine. So he stuffs the run.
Right.
Name 3 receivers that Andy Dalton's going to throw to.
Name one corner that's going to cover him.
Richard Sherman. Oh wait.
Yeah.
Sorry, but I mean, listen. Seattle might win the toss and maybe march down the field and get on the scoreboard first with a touchdown. But I think it's going to be a very, very uphill battle for Cincinnati. And I think Seattle actually runs this game in the ground on Cincinnati. Russell Wilson probably doesn't have to make more than 10 passing attempts if he doesn't want to in this game. Seattle wins this one big, 31-14.
Okay, we really are completely on opposites here. I look at the Seattle roster and I laugh. They have no wide receiver. They have no running back. They still don't have an offensive line.
Chris Carson and Tyler Lockett.
Like I said, no wide receiver, no running back. 1 year doesn't make a career, and Lockett can be double covered and disappear for weeks on end. We've seen it, right? Their offensive line didn't exactly get upgraded to the degree that any Seahawk fan that's following Russell Wilson's career would like, right? Defensively, they're decimated. Yes, they added Jadeveon Clowney, which I do think improves their win total for the year from 4 to 6, and in my estimation, elevates them from third place to maybe second place, depending on how bad the Niners actually are this year. Although I think the Niners could be improved as well. I had the Niners going 8-8, but I could see them easily losing a game to Seattle and Seattle winning a couple extra games and them evening out at 6-10 and Seattle gets the tiebreaker and gets second place. Maybe even at 8-8. Maybe Seattle's the 8-8 team because I do like Jadeveon Clowney. But I'm looking at this lineup and I'm laughing. Cordy Glenn at left tackle. He originally played in Buffalo. You got Michael Jordan, Trey Hopkins, John Miller, Bobby Hart. Those guys are all upgrades. Not all of them, because some of them played with Cincinnati last year, but they're upgrades for the Bengals on the offensive line. They've got a whole new offensive philosophy coming in that's going to have a completely fresh outlook on things. The way I see this game breaking down is it's going to be one of the closer games all day long, and people are going to be like, oh, maybe Anthony's right, but they're going to be waiting for that shoe to drop, and Seattle's going to win the game because they're home. And, the 12th man, which is responsible for exactly the same amount of false starts the year Seattle won the Super Bowl as the Trans World Dome had with all 19 fans in the stands. But I'm supposed to believe it's a tremendous advantage for the home team. I'm going to digress on that one. They had talent that year. They don't have talent this year. You've got John Ross, who's got speed. You've got Pharoh Cooper, which Ram fans should remember him very well. I was high on him when he was with the Rams. I don't think he's that bad of a receiver. He's going to be getting some time because of the injury to A.J. Green. Now, I don't know anything about Damian Willis. I'm not going to pretend to say he's going to make a difference. He's really the other starting slot receiver, right? But I do know Tyler Boyd. I do know Tyler Eifert. When healthy, he's pretty impressive. I do know Joe Mixon and Giovanni Bernard is a capable backup to come in. But it's the Bengals defense that I like. Carlos Dunlap and Geno Atkins are better than any Seahawk defensive line combo you throw at me. Jadeveon Clowney is better than both of them. Who else do they got?
Are you talking linebacking core too or no?
No, D-line. They got nothing, right? They got a great linebacker, but honestly...
They did, didn't they? They had Bruce Irvin, but they traded him.
Right. And, and Sam Hubbard is the other defensive end. He sometimes stands up and can play like a pseudo linebacker, but I think he's,
They have former Lion Ezekiel Ansah.
Yeah. But do you think do you think he's better than Dunlap or Atkins? I don't.
No.
And the Seahawks offensive line is woeful. I'll tell you the guy that people need to look out for is Jordan Evans, because he showed up on film quite a bit in, last year. Dre Kirkpatrick, better corner than anything Seattle has.
Sean Williams is a good safety, a really good safety. You know, I don't think these two teams are so far apart. I really don't. And if the difference is truly the stadium, then fine. It's going to be a close game. I don't have any delusions Cincinnati's going to go in and win 31-0. But I do think between the passing game and going after, because I think Seattle's going to be aggressive because they're not going to take Cincinnati seriously. I think Dunlap and Atkins are going to be in the face of Russell all day long. I think Dre Kirkpatrick is going to have a pick, maybe two. Sean Williams is going to have a forced fumble or a fumble recovery. Take your pick. And I think the Bengals are going to pull this one out 24-21. And it might be a situation where you just said Greg the Leg kicks the game-winning field goal. It may be a situation where Randy Bullock hits the game-winning field goal because Andy Dalton drives him downfield, exposing their rush because Jadeveon Clowney is not a pass rusher, so they'll double-team him. They'll play Anza's aggression against him, and I think that they'll get some plays. I don't think Joe Mixon's going to rush for 100 yards. I'm not ridiculous. Jadeveon Clowney's a run stuffer. He's Ndamukong Suh 2.0. So he'll stuff the run. The Rams, they won't run the ball. He'll end up with like 50 yards rushing, but he's going to have a lot of yards receiving. And Andy Dalton is going to be upwards around 215, 220 in passing. And I think the Bengals win the game 24-21 in Seattle. And I think no one's going to give the Bengals credit. They'll make up some reason why Seattle lost, and this will go under the radar. But it's the beginning of what I talked about in this offseason. Because remember, this coach knows the Seahawks offense. They don't know this guy's football team. He was with the Rams last year, but he's not running the same system. He's a quarterback coach, which is something Andy Dalton in his entire career has never really had. And when he has had a good offensive mind working with him, look at the success Andy Dalton has had. I'm not saying Andy Dalton's an NFL MVP, or I'm not saying Andy Dalton's going to win the MVP this year. But I am saying that Andy Dalton is not as bad as everyone makes him out to be. And I think Zach Taylor's going to have a few surprises. And I think it's going to be a lot closer than people think. That's all I'm saying, Eric. And I think the Bengals are going to win. Like I said, 24-21, a Randy Bullock field goal as time expires to give Cincinnati a 1-0 start. If he misses, they go to overtime. And look, anytime a game goes in overtime, I'm nervous because you literally have a 50-50 chance of being right. And Russell Wilson is so capable of taking Seattle downfield and winning the game 27-21 right then and there. You know it, and I know it. So if they're going to win it, they better win it in regulation. That's what I say. Are you there?
I'm here.
Okay. So we really disagree on that, and people can shake their heads at me, but like I said, I'm not too proud to admit when I'm wrong. And we will cover this game when we come back next week. And I will be the first to eat crow if you're right and it's 31-14 and the Bengals just look terrible in the process. The other thing I'm not going to do is get too high on Cincinnati for getting off to a 1-0 start, because that's happened in the past too and never worked out. Right? So
Yeah, like last year.
exactly. That's exactly what I was thinking of. Right? All right. Last but not least, you want to cover this game, so take it away.
Kansas City at Jacksonville. I want to know, is Kansas City's offense still lethal? Is Jacksonville's defense back? But, last time they met, Kansas City beat Jacksonville. Tyreek Hill went over 90 yards and had a touchdown over Jalen Ramsey.
Yeah, and they gave
Here's the big difference in this game. Blake Bortles to Nick Foles. Big difference right there.
Oh yeah.
But I also want to know, okay, Marquise Lee's coming back from a torn ACL that he missed all of last year. Apparently the Foles to D.D. Westbrook connection is a real thing. I like to take that whole, we've got a connection in the preseason with a grain of salt. Because watch D.D. Westbrook have 2 catches for 12 yards and Marquise Lee go off for 9 catches and 108 yards.
Right.
it's one of those things where I am curious in Jacksonville's defense. I'm curious on Jacksonville's offense because Jacksonville, if Foles can lead them to win, if Foles, let me start that over. If Foles can lead them to wins, how much more does Leonard Fournette buy into what Jacksonville is doing? And that's what they need the most. Is they need Fournette.
You just covered it.
Run the ball, right?
You
exactly.
just covered it for me. Look, the difference in this game. Look, is Kansas City's offense going to be lethal this year? Yes. If you're expecting Kansas City's offense to be as lethal as it was a year ago, you're crazy. There's film now on Mahomes, right? Well, Anthony, there was film on Kurt Warner. Yeah, but the Rams didn't lose anybody on offense that year. They lost Kareem Hunt. That would be like the Rams losing Marshall Faulk. Right? Yeah, you could plug in Steven Jackson, but Steven Jackson was no Marshall Faulk.
No, and don't get me wrong. Listen, what Kareem Hunt started out doing last year was insane. Okay, he got in trouble. He did it to himself. That's one of the reasons why I think, again, if you're living under a rock for the last week, that another running back in Kansas City, former Andy Reid.
But he's old. He's old.
McCoy, I know he's old. But Andy Reid can get the most out of him, if anybody.
I don't disagree with that, but the most out of him is not going to be Kareem Hunt type numbers. Now,
it's not. That's why you have Damian Williams.
Exactly.
Exactly. Damian Williams.
Exactly. It doesn't have to be. It just has to be enough that between him and Damian Williams, you're getting Kareem Hunt type numbers. But you know as well as I do, when you have to have two guys do what one did, you're not better. You're just not. The Bears lost Walter Payton. They had Neil Anderson to do the running, and they started using Sanders more to do the receiving, right? Then Anderson started catching the ball better, and they were able to use him, but he was never Walter Payton. Nor was he ever going to be.
Well, no. There's never no way he was ever going to be. Right.
And that's unfair, right? But it's you lose that, okay? Not that Neil Anderson wasn't a great running back in his own right, because I believe he was. And I don't think Damian Williams is a bad running back either. But you've got a lot of things going on. And when you lose a player of that caliber, and that's not the only one they lost. Chris Conley did a lot for them in 13 games that he played in. The other one that I was looking at, not Calvin Benjamin, but the hell's his name?
Sammy Watkins?
Yeah, Sammy Watkins, which he's on the hot seat, but Sammy Watkins is a proven commodity. I'm sorry. It's the reason the Rams got rid of him. They realized you know who he is, Eric? And they had him on the team last year too. It's really funny. I just looked at his friggin' name. Where'd he go? Wide receiver. Come on. Kelvin Benjamin. He's like Kelvin Benjamin. That's why they got rid of Kelvin Benjamin. They're like, well, we already have Kelvin Benjamin. It's Sammy Watkins. This big, thick wide receiver who doesn't do much.
Sammy Watkins, though.
Huh?
They still do have Sammy Watkins.
Yeah, but they let go of Kelvin Benjamin.
Yeah.
Right? So, I mean,
and Watkins had some good games last year, and he'll have a good game here and there for them again, but they don't need it. They don't need him to be Jerry Rice.
No, but they need more than 519 yards out of him this year to duplicate what they did a year ago. Right?
I agree.
So you add Frank Clark, former Seahawk, yet another one depleting from the Legion of Doom defense, but apparently we're not supposed to acknowledge that. We're just supposed to assume that Larry Lipschitz and Dingleberry Dinglegum can come in and replace them no problem because, they've got the Seahawk name. Last time I checked, Seattle isn't the New York Yankees. You don't just plug in guys. They put the uniform on and they play above their heads. It's not the pinstripes. They don't have that tradition. I'm sorry.
Hey, Anthony.
Yeah.
Another team that should have ran the ball.
Right? Another team that should have ran the ball in the big one. Anyway, all I'm saying is this. Frank Clark is going to be a huge addition. I think the Chiefs are going to be a better team overall, but I don't think statistically they're going to be better. They beat Jacksonville last year, and they beat them pretty bad, actually. I mean, 30-14, it wasn't pretty. I do think Nick Foles is good enough for 13 more points, right? I think the Kansas City defense is 3 points less than it was a year ago. Well, Anthony, then you're talking 27-27, right? Well, the home team, don't they get a 3-point edge? Exactly. So then you're picking Jacksonville. No, I'm not. Because although he's good enough for a 13-point swing, I think he's only going to give him a 10-point swing. And I think that Kansas City is going to win this thing 27-24. And it's going to be one of those things where Travis Kelce's going to have a good day. And, you'll know that right away, because if Travis Kelce's in the game plan in the first quarter, then he's going to have a huge day. If he's absent in the first quarter, you're going to be cussing yourself out for starting him on your fantasy team. Although you shouldn't, because Kelce's one of the elite tight ends in the league and always has big numbers. One bad game is, he usually has 3 stinkers a year, right? So I just think that Mahomes, Jacksonville could win this game. If I'm a Chief fan, this game scares me because I know the quarterback is better than last year, and I know the defense is capable. The question is, do the two merge in week 1? The Chiefs really are in a weird conundrum. They should be excited they're playing Jacksonville early because that meshing doesn't have time to happen, but they should be concerned that they're playing Jacksonville because of what Jacksonville could be. So I go Kansas City 27-24. Your call.
I got Kansas City 34-30, but I won't be surprised if it's 34-20. Listen, don't underestimate Steve Spagnuolo-led defense, and also with Tyrann Mathieu back there for the Chiefs as well. I think he adds an extra dimension that the Chiefs haven't had in a while.
Yeah.
It's no more Bob Sutton back there where they're just going to be a Swiss cheese. Spagnuolo is going to hold everyone accountable, and I think you're going to see it this week. I think Jacksonville might get a late score to make it 34-20. But again, if it's 34-30, I'm not going to be surprised either because it's week 1, and Foles played in the preseason, Mahomes played in the preseason, so these guys are rip-roaring ready to go.
Mm-hmm. I will say one other thing. Tyreek Hill. He probably should have beat his girlfriend at least another 3 times. He could have gotten a 6-year deal. It looked like they gave him a year for every time he beat his wife. I'm sorry. Is that too soon? I'm sorry. Yeah, whatever. Fiance. Fiance, wife, doesn't matter. He beat the hell out of her like a redheaded stepchild anyway.
But he really didn't. It wasn't. He didn't knock her like Ray Rice did.
No, he didn't. He didn't give her the TKO in the first round. I admit, but he just broke his kid's arm, right, or something like that. Tyreek Hill is one of those players. I'm sorry. I'm gonna say this, and I don't wish injury on anyone. But there are some guys, when they get injured, you're like, I really don't care. That sucks.
But let me ask you this. Did you actually read the follow-up to everything? Because it was her that pretty much tried to set him up with everything.
That's what I heard. But I also know that he didn't deny using physical force from time to time. Right? Like, that's the issue.
Right.
He didn't do what she said he did, but he also didn't deny that their relationship is abusive by nature. You do remember that part of it, right?
Right.
I mean, that's what a lot of people have said, is that their relationship is abusive and that this is normal for them. Well, I'm sorry. I was raised you don't hit a woman. I don't care what she does to you. You just don't do it.
Yeah.
Now, look, laying your hands on your kid, I'm sorry. I got my rear end handed to me by my parents growing up. Pulling a switch off of a tree and using it to whoop you, that's what we used to do. Although my dad didn't tell me go get a switch. He would just, you'd hear the belt loops coming and you're like, oh God, double up on blankets quick. Because you knew it was about to hurt. Right? So, I mean, you know, and if I did it too good, my dad would use the buckle, make sure he got through. So, you know, for me, there's a difference between Adrian Peterson and this guy. And she said she set him up, but here's where I have issues with this whole story. And then I'm going to let you do your little football segment here in a minute. Where I have, because I don't believe women, like Amazing Lucas says on his YouTube show. I don't believe women. I don't believe men. I believe facts. Well, here's the facts of the case. Both admit their relationship is violent. Well, if they're violent, then that means the kid's been on the receiving end of some of that violence. I'm sorry. That's not a gross overreach in an assumption, right? I also think when a woman is about to see her money cow go away, she's likely to pull back a little bit, right? So she tried to set him up, probably so she wouldn't lose him. And when she realized she was going to lose him, she pulled it back to keep him. Because her story completely changed once he and her fixed the relationship. Does nobody else find that to be suspicious at all? Maybe I'm just overly thinking things that would not be the first. But my mind's racing going, the timing of this kind of stinks, right? So is Tyreek Hill guilty? To his own words, yes. In his own words, our relationship is violent. So there's obviously some beatings going on somewhere. To the extent, we don't know. And the fact that Tyreek Hill didn't get any suspensions and Kareem Hunt did goes to show you just how moronic and how stupid and incompetent the commissioner of the NFL is. I can get somebody from a mental institution who's drooling in a cup and talking out of one side of their mouth with their face drooping over their shoulder and twitching to do a better job than this friggin' mongrel does. But, you know, he's just an oversized giant albino monkey running around. So, and I don't mean to insult the monkey species because they're definitely smarter than Roger Goodell. But what do you expect from Captain Loser Boy, right? So nothing surprises me. Anyway, what did you want to cover? You said there's something else we need to talk about.
Yeah, so did you hear where Antonio Brown ended up?
New England.
Are you surprised?
I called it this morning when I found out they released him. I said he was going to go to New England.
So he gives up $54 million to go get $9 million guaranteed to play for New England.
Yep. Here's the problem. He can't run deep patterns. Tom Brady won't be able to find him. But I will say this. I think Tom Brady's completion percentage just went up. And I think his deep ball percentage went up by probably 5 to 10%. So for you analytical dorks out there, what that essentially means is instead of completing it 1 out of every 4, he's going to complete the deep ball 1 out of every 3. So New England could very easily be, 12, 13 win team.
So I did pose the question on Facebook to some people, why not the Bears?
Why not?
You should have seen those. You should have seen those responses that came through. Oh, he's toxic in the locker room. The Bears don't need him. I'm like, so you don't want a Super Bowl? You want mediocrity? Oh, the Bears don't need him. Trubisky's a rookie. No. Trubisky's on a rookie contract. Exactly why you go after him.
Right. I think
you don't. The Bears. I can't tell you the last time the Bears had 2 really good wide receivers. Okay.
Never.
Maybe Marshall and Jeffrey, but Jeffrey was cutting his teeth in the NFL at that time.
Right.
Maybe Dalton McKinnon, but I mean, it's not like they set the world on fire. Okay. I really can't name another time. I can't even remember who the other wide receiver opposite of Curtis Conway
I'll tell you.
back in the day.
I'll tell you. I'm really surprised the Niners didn't go after him. I really am. They have nobody. in the wide receiving department.
True, but remember who first said that they were interested, who contacted the Steelers when the Steelers made them available.
Well, I know who, and that's who he went to.
Right.
But
so do you think it at all was orchestrated once he got out to Oakland that he would try to get released?
man,
I mean,
I
to
don't
do
know.
everything that he did,
Dude,
to even sign the extension and then ask
No.
for his release
here's
after everything that went on.
here's why I say no. Here's why I say no. Everything was fine, if you remember. Everything was great until he got the foot injury from the cryo chamber. The problem
It was
with
his own doing.
I know, but the problem is that people called him out on his stupidity. And you know, Antonio Brown isn't just a diva, he's a flat out chick. This dude is a teenage girl in a man's body. He is a typical 16-year-old mean girl, valley girl, rich, stuck up snob loser. That's what he is. That's what he's always been. That's what he's always going to be. So, as soon as you called him out on his stupidity, he was going to go full-blown supersonic retard on everybody who dared call him out. Justified or un, that's what did it in. And then it was, well, now I can't play because of the foot injury, and I don't want to get this to be the reason, I don't want this to be the reason I don't play, because people are going to call me out for my stupidity even more. So now I'm going to make up a fake complaint about the helmet and cause a stink there. Because I guarantee you the reason he went off on Mayock is because Mayock pulled him in and went, "You've got to be the dumbest motherfucker I've ever seen in my life. You call yourself a professional athlete? You're not even a professional burger flipper. You're damn lucky you have the ability to catch a football because you got the brain capacity of a dead, rotting fish." And that probably put him over the top. So he cussed him out, and Mayock's like, "You're out of here." He apologized, but Mayock was already working the release. I guarantee you that
whole Friday apology with the team captains spinning next film was just for show, and I'm sorry, but man, if I were in that audience, I'd have been like, I ain't accepting this until you actually step foot on the field and actually do the talking with your football skill instead of crying up here.
Well, the thing is, he's going to do the talking with a football. He is a once in a generational talent. That's undeniable. That's undeniable. And if the Patriots don't make this move, I'm going to be looking like a flipping genius by the end of the playoffs. But because they made this move, people are going to be like, "Oh, Anthony, there you go again. Demise of Tom Brady. Look at these Hall of Fame numbers. Look at this season MVP numbers." Yeah. Thank you, Antonio Brown. But the question's going to go on. Does a quarterback need a wide receiver, or does a wide receiver need a quarterback? And Antonio Brown had a chance to answer that question in Oakland. It will not get answered in New England.
No. But let me ask you this. Antonio Brown's numbers were on a Hall of Fame pace already before he even left Pittsburgh, okay? So let me ask you this. When the day comes for them to look at his numbers for enshrinement into the Hall, do they give him the T.O. treatment?
Well, probably. But like T.O., he'll get in.
And based on his numbers alone, he should get in.
Right. Right. See, the NFL, I keep telling you, they're whores. They're absolute prostitutes. They will do anything for money. They will have sex with infants if it pays well. That's how corrupt the NFL is. That's how sick and twisted and how much of a whore for money they really are. So anything to keep that brand up top. See, some businesses like baseball, they operate with a shred of dignity, right? They actually attack the steroid issue. They actually Yeah, they're making changes that I'm not happy about, but they're also not making changes and sticking to the integrity of the game. How long that's going to last, I don't know. But, you know, there is a shred of, you know, dignity to the game that baseball's still keeping, that football has long since left.
Yeah.
So, you know, what does that have to do with this guy? You know, nothing. Nothing except they'll use the Antonio Brown not going into the Hall of Fame as a way to promote the Hall of Fame, get people interested in talking about it and covering it. So when he does finally get in, it'll be this big old charade like it was with T.O. until T.O. said he wasn't going to go. And don't get me, you do know that's the only reason the NFL got pissed off, right? You do know that. The only reason the NFL got pissed off at T.O. is because he wasn't going to show and give them their moment of, you know, ridiculous money coming in from TV contracts and ticket sales and everything else to see T.O.'s speech.
Yeah.
So, you know, but I also told the NFL, you reap what you sow. You're going to put this guy in the Hall of Fame. You know, I do think there could be a case to keep these guys out. You know, that to be in the Hall of Fame, it's not just your numbers, but the character that you were on and off the field should be that of honor and dignity as well, and should be Hall of Fame-esque as well.
Well, that went out the window.
Oh, for sure. For sure. Because as much of a jerk as Eric Dickerson even was when he played, he never did anything to tarnish the shield, as they say. You know what I mean?
I hear that.
So, I don't know. But, yeah, he'll be in the Hall of Fame. There's no question he'll be in the Hall of Fame. And to what degree, you know, whether they hold him out once and then he plays, or they put him in on the first ballot, you know, will be. I think it's going to depend on two things. It's going to depend on, are there any other Steelers going in? Because I think it'd be hilarious if him and Ben went in at the same time.
That would be kind of funny, but I mean, Brown's 31, but Ben is 36.
Right. But Ben will probably play until he's 50 because no one can touch the quarterbacks anymore. So, and, you know, Ben Roethlisberger's in a good spot. And, you know, he can have a 30% completion percentage, throw for under 1,000 yards, have 20 more interceptions and touchdowns, and we're still going to hear about Pittsburgh being the best team in the North, and he's the best quarterback until he retires. Because these guys, they don't understand what diminished talent looks like.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, even last year when Pittsburgh didn't make the playoffs, let's analyze why they didn't real quick. The reason they didn't is they were a one-trick pony in the passing game. It was throw it up and let Antonio Brown make Ben Roethlisberger look good and wait till the double coverage comes over on Antonio Brown, and then Ben's got to deliver an NFL throw to a super young, talented, athletic wide receiver in Juju Smith-Schuster. And then James Conner, a guy no one had film on, gets to run the ball. Like, it was easy.
More like their defense stunk and they lost to Oakland.
Or more like their team as a whole stunk, and the Oakland game was just, you know, my point proven, right? I mean, the Steelers through most of the season didn't look good.
No.
Let's not forget they tied Cleveland when the Browns had Hugh Jackson. Let me say that again. They tied the Browns when Hugh Jackson was their head coach. Don't tell me Pittsburgh was a good team last year. Just don't. Because I'm not going to listen. And this year they're not any better. They're worse because they lose Brown and there's film on Connor. And their defense is the same. So where's the improvement? See, that's the other thing.
Find out.
Right? But that's the other thing that kills me is everyone's like, oh, the Browns are going to be so much better. Oh, the Ravens are going to be so much better. Oh, the Bengals suck. And Pittsburgh's going to make the playoffs. Well, wait a minute. If the Browns are going to be better and Baltimore is going to be better and the Steelers didn't make the playoffs last year when the Browns weren't very good and the Ravens weren't very good, I'm confused. Is Devin Bush really going to make that much of an impact? Mark Barron, Ram fan, Mark Barron didn't show up last year until the Eagle game and then played the rest of the season. He had been there, but he was a liability on defense all season long and then showed up against Philly and was there the rest of the year. But up until the Eagle game, you found Alex Barron and you either ran or threw at him and torched the Ram defense. So, okay. Is Steven Nelson Deion Sanders and I didn't know this? Because those are your additions. Moncrief, really? Is that an upgrade? Is Moncrief as every bit as good as Antonio Brown? Like, I just don't know where Pittsburgh got better. But we'll see. I mean, like they always say, Eric, that's why they play the games.
Right.
I am curious, though, with Antonio Brown going to New England, can I say something?
Nobody's ever stopped you before.
Well, that's true. I really do think this changes my playoff landscape.
It kind of does mine too.
Right? I mean, I can't sit here and justify Cincinnati as a 2 seed anymore. I could justify them as a 3 seed. I could justify Kansas City as a 2 seed. But I can't justify New England as a 4 seed anymore. They got to be the number 1 seed, right?
I mean, with a schedule like that and an early trip to Miami instead of late season trip to Miami where they typically treat that as a vacation rather than a business trip. I mean, really, if they're not 5-0 going into week 6 or even 4-1 or something, I mean, I don't know what to tell you, man. Like,
I mean,
they have a chance to go 14-2.
Yeah, I can't put Cincinnati in the conference championship game. I'm sorry, I can't. I can't. Not with this edition.
Changes the landscape, man.
It really does. I mean, I could see Cincinnati winning a playoff game, but I had them losing. I had them losing at Kansas City. I had them losing.
To the penthouse.
Right. I had them losing to Kansas City in Kansas City. I had them winning at home against New England, but they ain't going to beat New England in New England with Antonio Brown. So
Brown, Gordon, a couple of rookies, Edelman. Somebody actually mentioned this on Twitter, which is hilarious. This one guy that I actually have a lot of respect for in the football community. I think he's really good. But he said Gronk by Halloween back in New England.
oh, that's funny. That could be, though. That could be.
Yep.
What would that put New England in 4 straight Super Bowls?
Something like that.
I don't know that they get past Kansas City, though. We'll have to see. That Kansas City team is talented. All right. Well, listen. I'm Anthony.
I'm Eric.
Go Rams. Oh, I screwed up. Horns up. Horns up.
Bear down.
Go Rams.
Go Bears.
Oh, by the way, if you guys get a chance, check out the Brett Favre tailgate with the Bear guys from Saturday Night Live. It is funnier than
It
hell.
is hilarious.
Oh,
It is hilarious.
double doink is when Brett Favre throws a pick after getting sacked or fumbles or
Or,
what he
when he tries to throw one.
intercepted.
Yeah, intercepted.
Guys,
It's worth it. It's so friggin' I don't know what you're talking about, a double doink. And then what was the thing's name? Not Alexa, but what was it?
I know there was another one with Peyton Manning, and he's like, "Oh, okay, name the great Bears quarterbacks." And one of the guys is like, Sid Luckman. And then we literally went for like 25 seconds without them saying another word because I couldn't think of another quarterback.
Come on. Jim McMahon's in that conversation.
Dude, he played like 3 years.
I know, but it was a great 3 years in Chicago, man. He played longer than 3 years. 82. Then he was injured for most of 83. Then he played in 84. No, sorry, 83 he played. He was injured for most of 84. 85. Somewhat in 86, somewhat in 87, somewhat in 88. So, yeah, he probably played 3 full seasons.
So pretty much 3 years.
We got a problem. What? Jim McMahon sneezed and he blew his back out. He's out for 6 weeks. Son of a bitch!
Well, they actually say that he played from 82 to 96, which is funny.
Oh, he did, but he was a backup to Brett Favre.
For the Bears, he started 61 games.
How many games did he start after the Bears?
That was 7 years, and then 60. He started 36 more after that.
All right, man. I will let you go. Anyway, you guys have a good one. We'll see how week 1 goes. See you later.